Hello, I'm David Grossman from All Talk TV. I'm here with David Rosenberg from Jax. David, how are you?
I'm
Welcome.
good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. Very much appreciated. Jax, of course, stands for Jewish Addiction. What does it stand
Community
for?
Services. Jewish Addiction Community Services.
Thank you very much. So tell us, what does Jax do?
Well, Jax is an addiction resource, and I really think we're one of the only people who do this in the world, where we have a bunch of professionally facilitated work groups and counselors who take in people who are struggling with addiction, and it addresses the family members of the people who are struggling with addiction.
Right.
Addiction is very much a family disease. It affects everyone. Everyone gets really, really sick, not just the addict. And we provide that kind of service for it. It's a non-for-profit charity. Don't be fooled by the Jewish component.
Yes.
We are about 40% attended by Jewish people, and the rest is all denominations. The reason that Jax was incepted was the Orthodox to conservative Jews weren't willing to go to meetings in the basement of churches. So it created itself as a identifying venue for these people to go get well.
Right. Okay. So, but as you say, it's open to anybody.
Everybody.
Who needs help.
We got everybody.
And this is a Toronto organization, but it does have
We've got
international. You have offices in different places.
We have Jax in Montreal. We have Jax in Toronto, and we have Jax in New York. And we have Jax in Baltimore. They have different. The Montreal one isn't really active right now, but the others are conducting meetings, and they're not as progressed as we are, but they're getting there.
Right.
And we kind of refer to each other and share our knowledge.
Okay. So the name of this webinar, if you want to call it that, or online show, is Addiction. We're Not Bad People.
Addiction holds a huge stigma, where people watch shows on television or see homeless people on the street, or go down to the Needle District and see people doing or banging drugs, as we call it, and they automatically, the perception often is, these are people that had terrible childhoods, or are suffering from mental illness or huge displacement in society, and they're really morally deficient people. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I am myself a recovering drug addict. I did over $500,000 of crack cocaine in 3 years, almost killed myself. I certainly came from wonderful parents and a wonderful upbringing, and I certainly don't consider myself a morally deficient person.
Right.
I don't know if you want to go out and ask my ex-wife whether she agrees with that. She may or may not, but I've really devoted my life to doing good and helping people and getting people back on their feet through Jax and through my own experiences, and it's just a great thing that you have an organization that has a place to go and get well.
So now, if people are watching and they're thinking, well, I don't live in Toronto, I don't live in Montreal, what can they get out of watching this podcast series?
Well, listen, first of all, if you're struggling with addiction, it's about 10% of people that do. And you know what? I don't know too many other diseases that affect 10% of the population. The fact of whether it's a disease or not is a whole other discussion. But people that are struggling need to feel safe. They need to have a place to go. They need to understand that there's millions of people that have beaten and survived and lead productive lives post the addiction. And if you're not from Toronto, as your question stated, we are more than equipped to steer you in the right direction, to steer you towards programs that have worked. We will take you through meetings and support groups in your area for you and get you started, and offer our phone number if you have any problems after that, just to keep calling. That's why we're there.
And I think we agreed that in future episodes we're going to have a call-in component. Yeah. So we can hear from individuals,
right?
If they have questions or if they want to share.
And listen, and those future shows are not to be missed. because people get very heated and emotional about addiction, especially if they're in the midst of it. And they can get very heated and argumentative and really push the envelope. And this is a disease that actually tells you you don't have a disease.
Right.
So you'll have people calling in, or you'll be hearing from people in their stories saying, you know what, I was doing $300-400 of cocaine a day, but I didn't have a problem. It's really interesting.
But they're usually in the midst of it.
Yeah, but we're going to tell stories as well and listen to people, and they will. You'll hear from the people in the midst of it, and you'll hear from people who are in recovery of it.
Right.
And they'll tell you, we didn't think we had a problem until it was, until a nuclear bomb went off and showed us that there was a problem.
Right. And then there is another component of all this, and that is that we want to do something to help people, to reach out to people, inspire them, give them access to resources, motivation, whatever, but we also need help.
Jack's is a non-for-profit charity, and we reach out to the community in both both in Canada and the United States, and we say, listen, these facilitators cost money, these intaker workers cost money. We go out to all the schools and all the camps and educate, and that costs money. Dave, I sit in a parking lot with our teen program. We have a teen program. And I watch young ladies walk in, weighing, 98 to 80 pounds with track marks on their arms. And 3-4 months later, they're walking out 125 pounds with a job. Now, I don't know what better cause there is. Some of these people become counselors, doctors, lawyers, moms, dads. I don't know what's more worth it than to give to something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's look at your life. I mean, you were a very successful businessman.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, you went through a lot.
I think it depends how you define success. I certainly wasn't a happy person in my previous business. I owned a huge clothing store. I was very lost. Business failed. I was even more lost. And I certainly wasn't accepting of anything in my life, and I ended up having to numb that with crack cocaine. So there are so many cases of people who appear to be successful and appear to be happy and appear to have everything in the world solved with their cars and their boats, and then they fall on their feet and go off in a drug tangent. It's like, I can't believe it. This person was so put together.
Right.
But it couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
We go by the old adage, the picture's often better than the story. So when you say I was successful, I don't think I was. I have a lot less today, and I find myself more successful than I was.
I guess, as financial success, right? When people think about, people making a lot of money, they got it all together, but I guess that's not always the case.
No, absolutely. And I had stealing from my father down to a pet. It's.
Was he part in the business with you?
Yeah. I stole a lot of stuff. I really needed to make a huge move in my life in order to beat drugs. And I tell people that the only thing that I had to change was everything. And that's what I did. And that's a constant work in progress. There's challenges. It doesn't all correct itself. There's, you work on things, and we teach you that. We give you the tools to deal with those changes that happen and those challenges in early recovery and, later on in recovery. There's always challenges.
Well, Dave, I see you as a very good role model because, you've turned your life around. Like, all that energy that you had, which was going down the wrong path. Now, being the director of operations at Jack's, you are in a position where you can help a lot of people, and I know that you do.
And that's a huge rush, way more effective than drugs. Like I said, you see this girl comes out, she gets a job. There's, everything's healing. She really has tools to deal with her life, so that she doesn't need to numb her feelings. And I don't know what's better. Honestly, I don't know for myself. And for many who are going to be watching this, what's better than that?
Yeah.
You can go out and buy a Mercedes, and 3 weeks later you can start finding flaws in the Mercedes, and you start making yourself crazy. But you know, saving a young teenage girl, I don't know what's.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's better than any Mercedes I've ever seen.
And also, you're very together. I mean, you're very close to your children, even though you're separated.
Close to my ex-wife too.
You close to your ex-wife. So I mean, you know, what could be better? I mean, let's face it, marriages do end, but if you can be on good terms with your ex,
I've learned through Jax. I've learned something called acceptance. You know, my kids are who they are. Whether I like it, it is. Whether I don't like it, it still is. So it becomes an acceptance of the things that I can't control. And you know, the minute that you learn acceptance of the things you can't control, you got a real shot at being happy. Because, you know, I don't like that it's cloudy today. I want it to be sunny. Well, too bad. It's it's cloudy.
right?
So you learn these kind of tools. You learn to take
Yeah.
it one step at a time. You learn these things in order to reshape your life. And
There's
so
a great quote, right? It's God give me the strength to change the
that's
things.
the Serenity
that I
Prayer.
can,
They make us say that about 3 or 4 times a day.
right.
You know, to accept the things we cannot change. And,
Yes.
you know,
Yes. A
the
lot of
courage to
wisdom.
change the things that we can. Yeah.
A lot of wisdom in that. So, Dave, I know that you're going to be offering people a lot of great things, and we're going to have a sign-up box here on the side. So, if people hasn't signed up to get the regular show alerts, they should, because it's going to be it's going to be very exciting.
This will be, and I have no doubt of this. This will be the most exciting thing to hit a camera, because this is the most prevalent disease of this century and the last century combined. You know, I always tell a story of the H1N1 virus that affected 1/18 of 1% of the population. And of the 1/18 of the 1% of the population it affected, only 1/18 of that 1/18 died. You know, I've got a disease that's affecting 10% of the population. And by the way, that H1N1 made national news for months.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a disease that affects 10% and 30% die. And no one's talking about my disease.
Wow. I had no idea the figures were that.
They're that high on substance abuse. So, and on substance abuse and alcohol.
So when we put up that Save a Life phone number there, that's serious stuff.
Yeah.
If you need help, you can reach out to Jax. Doesn't matter if you live in Toronto. Doesn't matter if you're Jewish. They will help you. They will direct you to the right place. So the phone number is on the screen: 638-0350.
Right, and I want to just mention, if I may, that addiction doesn't have to be alcohol, gambling, or sex or drugs. Those are just some of the anesthetics to anesthetize your life that you can't handle. But there are people who sleep their lives away. That they can't handle their world, so they go to sleep. That's a drug of choice also. Addiction has nothing to do with the anesthetic you've chosen to numb your pain. Nothing.
Right.
That's just the anesthetic. The issue is, you've seen it at meetings, people say, "Hi, I'm David and I'm an addict," and everybody goes, "Hi, David."
Right.
The real way to announce yourself at a meeting is, you know, "Hi, my name is David. I took crack cocaine and David's my problem."
Okay.
You know, we need to learn how to live life. We're not bad people. Just because we can't, you know, we have this massive anxiety disorder that doesn't let us, that doesn't allow us to handle our life, doesn't mean that we're bad people. It means that we have an anxiety disorder that doesn't let us handle our life, and
Right.
we need to numb that kind of constant pain.
And mainstream media doesn't want to cover this.
It's very, very, very tough because of the stigma. The prevalence in the media on addiction is on celebrities. And you know, someone asked me at a meeting, you know, or at a speech that I was doing, and they said, you know, how come so many of these actors are falling off the wagon with substance abuse and alcohol and sex abuse in terms of Tiger Woods? You know, how come it's so many celebrities? And I said, really? Most of the celebrities I love aren't doing drugs at all. It's still 10%. You're just hearing about it.
right.
I don't.
Everybody likes
Barbara
to talk
Streisand
about
doesn't do
those
drugs,
things, yeah.
and all the Tom Selleck doesn't do drugs, and it can go on forever. Richard Gere doesn't do
Right,
drugs.
right.
Michael Douglas doesn't do drugs.
So
Catherine
you're
Zeta-Jones
saying
doesn't do drugs.
it's just as prevalent amongst
It's the same
regular
statistic.
people,
It's the that's
but
right.
nobody cares.
Right. You're only going to hear about it when people really want to look at it. It's that river in Egypt. What do we call that river in Egypt?
Denial.
Right, the Nile. Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole world's in denial of addiction.
Yeah.
The whole world's in denial of addiction. The minute that we can't see the consequences of our actions and we need to numb our life, we're an addict.
So people, again, make sure you sign up. We need to stay in touch with you if you want to continue to hear from David and from Jax. He's going to have a regular show where you're going to hear about stories, inspirational messages, and this is a guy who he's a great role model. So you can learn a lot from him.
Thank you.
Well, it's the truth. And you'll also, if you need help, you can call that number, 416-638-0350. Somebody at Jax will help you if you're local. If you're not local, they will still help you, connect you to the right resource. And also, if you are in a position to help the organization continue to help you and people you love and know about and care about, then please help. The same phone number you can call and make a donation. If you're in Canada, you will get a tax receipt. If you're not in Canada, you can still get a tax receipt if the donation amount is over $1,000. They will manage a way to get you a tax receipt through a sister charity or something of that nature. So that's really all I think we have for today. This is just really an introduction show. Yeah. Addiction, We Are Not Bad People with David Rosenberg.
Thank you so much.
And I'm David Grossman.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for letting me speak.
My pleasure. See you next time.